Back to the regular agenda, the Planning Committee, Mr. Hempstead.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. B1, Planning, approve Amendment 4 to the LDA Disposition and Development Agreement by and among the Norwalk Redevelopment Agency, the City of Norwalk, Connecticut, Norwalk Land Development LLC, and authorize the mayor to execute Amendment 4 to the Land Disposition and Development Agreement. I'd like to move the item and then speak, Mr. Mayor.
Item's been moved by
Not that
Mr.
that
Hempstead.
surprised me. Not that that didn't surprise anybody.
Mr. Hempstead, you have the floor.
Thank you. First and foremost, I really want to thank the committee members of the planning committee, all the council members that came, but it was yeoman's work, we're volunteers, and a lot of people had to change a lot of different schedules to make the meetings. I truly, truly appreciate that. I know sometimes it was to your chagrin when I called another meeting, but I appreciate that most of you attended everything that you possibly could. And a special shout out to Felix and Courtney and Travis for making those Saturday meetings in the heat of winter, the cold of winter, even on a couple snowy days. So I agree with Mr. Mazzanti, who says that the precedents, and I've been at this probably longer than anybody here, I've never seen this, but this is the business side of me and the business side of others that knew from experience. We had to try and change the ways we do business. I appreciate Chairman Mr. Felix Serrano for collaborating on this and putting this together and making it all work to get us to this point. I know some people said 11 months, but really we're probably down to 10. We had a few months in there of a couple blank months. I certainly want to thank the staff, Mr. Sheehan, all our attorneys that were involved with this, because it was not only the meetings that we make, and there were 24 meetings, I think somebody told me this evening, that the planning committee actually had on this. And the fact that I know there were meetings, and not only meetings behind closed doors, but there were executive meetings when negotiations that happened between the mayor and the attorneys. Plus, I know there were several conversations on weekends and that, trying to get a better understanding of a certain condition or a certain proposal, or making something work. I appreciate that. Is it a perfect document? Nope. Is it about as near perfect as we can get it? Yeah. Is there room to do other things? Yes. Are there abilities to further negotiate some items that are still open? I think so. But in the process that was asked for to get this to the council floor for the 13th, which I promised I would get it before the end of this term, and I believe that should, and I disagree with one comment about that, that the reason for the end of this term is because you got a body that's been living with this for almost 11 months. It's got all the background information. It understands where it is. Wills, we're all different wills, different reasons why we're doing any kind of involvement or voting on this, whatever. But at some point, it's got to come to fruition, and it should come to fruition with this body, which took it up and was presented to. I think we all know, I think GGP recognizes, we recognize that we are dealing with probably the most valuable piece of retail real estate in, if not Connecticut, at least New England, on the I-94 corridor, considering the amount of income levels down here in Lower Fairfield County. And the city in this LDA, because remember in this LDA is that we're certainly upping by about 4 times the amount of allowable retail space that was allowed for the first LDA, certainly helped increase the value of this property. That's the benefit to GDP and the benefit to the city of Norwalk on its taxes. There was a lot of hard work that people understand. I know there are individuals, and you know, sometimes I had issues with the enterprise zone, but I think we worked out a good financial deal for the city. That was hard won and hard fought. We'll be getting 50% of our money up front of the increment taxes versus waiting through a 7-year cycle of getting up where it ramps up 10% every year. That certainly makes for a better present value dollar than a future value dollar, and I think it's a good deal for the city for the tax purposes. This project will have, without a doubt, a permanent and long-term effect on the city of Norwalk. Some may say good, some may say bad, but it is what it is. It's a parcel that's been in there where do I hate to miss this, that Mr. Collins was involved in 1985 when they were talking about trying to develop that parcel back in those days. There's been an issue, and rightfully so, asked by some council members, and I want to say about traffic impact and those kind of infrastructure impact. The way this is set up with the LDA, the way this is set up with the master plan and the design guidelines, which you still have yet to do, that is left for others to figure out. We have to trust our zoning commission and their staff and their experts that they hire for traffic. We have to trust the state traffic commission and their experts when they evaluate the impact of traffic and whatever it is that's going to happen on West Avenue. The housing issue, is it a shame that it went by the wayside? The answer is yes, but we went from 1.2 million square feet of pure office space in the late 90s to a mixed use. The affordable housing component of that actually has been made up with the more in the Waypoint development, because they've actually extended the amount of housing that was originally considered in that Waypoint, and there's been a few other projects since then. So I think, is there always room for more? The answer is yes, but I think that falls more on our neighbors than it does on us to live up to what the state has set as a guideline, 10%. And I know for a fact the city of Norwalk every year puts money into its capital budget for affordable housing. This process has been arduous, unfortunately, and I don't think it needs to stay that way, but unfortunately, I know it has strained some relationships, personal relationships between people, so I don't think it needs to be this. This is a business transaction between the city and GGP. But we've come to the point where I support this as it came out of committee, as I said I would. I think it's time that we move on with these two. Is there room to further talk? Yes, it's even in the LDA, it states so, but there's also another body that needs to pass on this. We are the first. Redevelopment agency, or commission as I call them, also has to be in sync with whatever happens. Out of sync, then we have to figure out what we're gonna do in between. That's really all I have to say. Thank you. I know, I'll wait, Mr. Mayor, others to speak. Cecil Group did advise us through this. Also, Ty and Bond. These are two expert groups we brought in to look at this project. The amendment for the LDA 4, that's all this is, was given to them to evaluate. We have incorporated their concerns, along with the redevelopment agency's concerns, along with the redevelopment commission's concerns, into this packet tonight. I'm urging for its adoption. I'm urging for talks to continue. Cecil Group is here tonight. He has alternatives. I think it's time maybe GGP and Cecil Group and even Mr. Tully kind of get together, because I think there are good ideas on all sides, and I applaud you, Mr. Tully, for doing this a lot on your own. We've had a few conversations, but I think if everybody gets to the table and kind of looks at this, I think this is doable. So with that, I'll urge for the passage, Mr. Mayor, and for now, I am done.
Mr. Kimmel.
If you don't mind, I would like to ask Mr. Sheehan some questions. As you and others are aware, my primary concern for a while has been that the negotiations just don't go on and on and on. So I have a couple issues I'd like to raise with you and see if we can get some clarity of what will happen now and the next few weeks, depending on how we vote. Assume for a minute that we approve what came out of the planning committee. That means we still have one major issue on the table, and that has to do with the overpass and the parking, okay? What would be the process? Now, I understand the GGP has the right to continue negotiating once this is passed. So what would be, if you could give me some idea of what would happen tomorrow and the next couple of weeks, when we as a council would get a second bite at the apple? Particularly on this particular issue where there still seems to be a major difference.
Well, first of all, I would hope that there would continue to be dialogue with GGP with regards to the condition that you're speaking about. The reason for the condition being there is simply that, is to allow conversation to continue about alternatives that we believe are workable for this project, if not better than what GGP has come up with from a pedestrian standpoint. There is no surprise with regards to the agency's position with regards to the linear length of the underpass. We've made that clear to the proponent of the project for well over 8 months, that the agency was not going to be on board with that. Assuming that you hold on the condition, again, I would hope that GGP would come forward and have a conversation with us about the alternatives. If there is a situation that what we're suggesting can't be met, the agency is going to be more than reasonable in dealing with that. But we need to have evidence that it can't be done.
Okay. My concern is, let's assume again for a minute that the package is passed tonight with the parking slash overpass condition there. And GGP meets with the city, and you all, after a series of discussions, the next couple of weeks, nothing has changed. Neither side is willing to budge. Again, this is hypothetical. I would still like to have another bite at the apple. That's my concern, primary concern. So even if there is no progress on the reduction of the parking and the length of the overpass, if all of us were to vote for this tonight and is accepted, I want to feel confident that even if this issue is not resolved, I will get another chance to vote on this sooner rather than later. Even if the issue is not resolved, because the issue for me personally is not a deal breaker, but on the other hand, I do not mind further discussion if we can come to some agreement.
I don't know what you're looking for. Are you saying in the next couple of weeks?
Yes.
Yes. Well, then that would depend on GGP being into the agency with it by tomorrow or the day after.
Again, I'm sorry to throw hypotheticals out there. Again, hypothetically, if GGP is does not come into the agency, they make it clear that they cannot budge on this particular issue, I would still want another bite at the apple.
I believe that we could certainly put something forward to the planning committee through the chair of the planning committee, and I think that the council rules allow the council president to bring it to the council.
Okay. So if we were to move forward tonight with what we have in front of us, I think many of us want to do this with the assumption that there will be some continued negotiations on this issue, but whether there are continued negotiations or not, we will basically end up having a vote on the condition, one way or the other, even if there is no resolution of the condition. That's my primary concern.
I can't effectuate that.
I
but
get that, okay.
The chair of the planning committee and the council president certainly
Okay, we
can.
get that. Now, my point is, I was going to introduce an amendment tonight that dealt with, one, the length of the overpass over the pedestrian area, which is pretty much at this point a non-issue. I think we're fairly close on that. But I have a question for you, because I want this to be, when we leave here tonight, I want our differences, whatever differences we may have among ourselves and GGP, to be very clear, and I want to have an idea that this is something that we can resolve rather simply. If in the condition that you have under bulk, height, and mass conditions, if 9 words were removed, and we remove the words, "will remove all parking from the easement area." If we deleted those 9, the word "and" also, if we deleted those words, and it read, "the proponent will reduce the building area over north," would that satisfy GGP's concerns?
I'm sorry, you said they'll
If we deleted
the
words-
building area piece, I didn't hear you say.
if in the way the condition reads, if we were to delete the demand to remove all parking from the easement area, that basically solves the problem for GGP?
Yes, they have assigned an amount of space to the parking use.
Right, so,
And if they allowed that space to be accommodated, their problem would be resolved.
okay, so if in a couple of weeks, the amendment, there is no movement on this issue, I would like, and I'm speaking on, not just to you, but I'm speaking to the council, and especially to the chair of the planning committee, that we have another opportunity to weigh in on this condition. That would be a yes or no vote by the council on whether or not we are going to go along with the condition, or it's a deal breaker for us, if it can't be met. If it's a deal, we have to decide if it is in fact a deal breaker for us, the parking issue, okay? However we vote, we vote. But I would like to have that happen sooner rather than later. And I hope sometime later on during the debate, Mr. Hempstead, you can respond what your plans are for the coming weeks on this particular issue. Thank you. I don't plan to, I'm not going to make that amendment this evening.
Mr. Petrini.
Yeah, I think everybody knows how my feelings are towards this project, and I've been a very, very strong supporter. I think the mall will do wonders for NOLA, including the downtown areas and done right for South North area. And I'm not looking at this tonight. I'm following along the same lines as Mr. Kimmel in regards, is that, hey, listen, when we first started with this mall, you had a number of council people and some other people that did not want a mall there. We've come a long, long way. We've worked very hard. There were 24 planning meetings, and there was probably 4 or 5 leadership meetings. We went through a thick changes, going back and forth with the attorneys that are sitting here, back and forth with GGP, and we got very, very close. Now, this is probably a game changer for the city of Norwalk, and what's taking so much time is that we want to make sure we get it right, because we're not experts. Like Doug said, we're just volunteers trying to do the best that we can. So I'm looking at tonight as a stepping stone along the way of this process, probably to send a clear message to GGP that if we can put aside a lot of the points that have been negotiated and show them, I presume it will pass tonight, as is coming out of committee, then you've put to rest maybe some minor points, but a lot of different points. And I too would like this council to vote on this when it comes to it. There were some things that were brought to light tonight. I mean, I saw Mr. Tully, you know, there seems to be some credence to what you're saying. You're an architect, I'm not. And I think we can close the chapter and move ahead with just one thing outstanding, and I understand GGP, that's a deal killer. Well, that's where negotiations. Guys, I've been I've been closer in negotiations all through my life in my business dealings. Maybe nothing on the magnitude of a project of this side, nowhere near it, but to me, it was more of a magnitude because it didn't have something to do with running a city, it had to do with my negotiations personally. And I think if we're going to approve this the way it came out of committee tonight, and I'm just assuming that shows GGP that, yeah, we're in tune to the idea of having a mall there, and let's work on these little differences, and hopefully we can get it for the October 27th. Nothing should be changed on the fly at this body. It should be done the way it's been through committee. And I'm a very strong supporter of the mall, and I'm hoping that we can work something out. So I am going to vote yes on this tonight to put to rest, and I hope everybody else does, that Norwalk we're there for the mall, and let's work out this one major problem, but I think there's a way to negotiate with this, and hopefully we can do this with this sitting council before hopefully the election.
Mr. Bettis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As a member of the planning committee, I've heard that somehow the planning committee has taken too long with this process, and I've also heard people say we've rushed this process. And I can honestly say that we've left no stone unturned. We've given this the attention it deserves, and we're here tonight voting on an LDA that approves all the recommendations that the experts that the city has hired has recommended. So that's something I'm proud of. And I actually want to thank GGP for working with us and hearing our issues and working and giving us, 24 of the 25, and hopefully we can work out number 25, which I think we really can. So, and we could have a long-lasting, fruitful relationship between the both of us. Thanks.
Mr. Sims, I think you were next, then Mr. Sims and Ms. Gianderco.
All right, yeah, thank you, Mayor. I want to just commend all the members of the planning committee, especially the Chairman Hempstead for his efforts in working in a bipartisan manner with everyone to try to get some resolution here. It's been a long and tedious process, and I'm just happy because this project sits in the heart and in the soul of South Norwalk. And myself and Faye Bowman, we both are representatives of that district. And I want nothing more than to have this project completed and to at least be one step further in that process. I am overwhelmed. I never thought that we would get to this stage in this term. But again, I just have to, take my hat off to everyone that really worked hard to make this come to fruition here. And I'm looking forward to really working along with all the rest of my colleagues here with redevelopment to make sure that we hold everyone accountable because we owe this to the taxpayers. It's not about us as a body. It's about the taxpayers of Norwalk. And it's about the citizens here where we're creating and bringing new jobs here to this city. And that's more important to me than anything else with this project. One, we're able to fill this big hole that's been an eyesore for our district for a very long time. We're talking about 15 years of taxpayers' money that's been going out the window here. And, to see all these homeowners and all these small businesses just dissolve in this district and without any recuperation of those tax dollars. And now that we have a great opportunity to bring GGP and have them part of this whole process and, and building this mall, I think it's going to do great things for the city. And I know that some folks may have, they're a little optimistic about the future of this project, but I assure you that this project will be around for a very long time. And one, we're gonna put a lot of people to work here, and I'm very, very gratified to know that a lot of folks will be able to work, and with a lot of the other things that's going to be attached to this project, I just can't wait till it's completed. So again, thank you guys all for your time, and again, thank you for helping serve the city. Thank you.
Ms. O'Toole Gianderco.
Thank you, Mayor. I also am a member of the planning committee and have attended all 24, although it felt like many more meetings than that. And to echo Mr. Kitey's comments that we've heard we took too long, we rushed through. I'm not quite sure what people thought we were doing with our time, but this is what we looked at. These are just the documents. And these are our packets with the LDA revisions and everything else. It's a lot of homework, but we all put the time in, worked together, and really got this done in a very timely fashion and in a new format that hasn't been done before, and for a project of this size was definitely well worth it. I want to thank Tim and the staff because we all had questions and concerns and they were always available to answer them, and it was very helpful to get to this point. And to Chairman Hempstead and Chairman Serrano from the Redevelopment Agency, thank you to both of them for getting this process to the point where it's at in this type of fashion. And to the fellow Planning Committee and the Redevelopment Agency, that we really all put our heads down and work together to find the best solutions that we could. So I'm glad that we're at this point this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? Mr. McCarthy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At the risk of being somewhat hackneyed, I'll repeat some of the comments that have already been made, but expand a little bit to say that, as far as people having worked a lot and having done a good job, I think it hasn't been mentioned that GGP did spend a significant amount of time before they even came to the council doing a road show and socialization project, which I think actually paid off in what was put forward, was already, as it was put on the table, more thought through than probably the plan would have been without that, so I think that's good. I'm not on the planning committee, but I attended 3/4 of those meetings, and that was a significant effort, so thank you to all the members of the planning committee. I know we've all received pressure, and it was very evident here tonight that between developers, friends, community members, activists, et cetera, we are all sort of balancing on the head of a needle, trying to do what's right to move this forward. So I don't think there's anyone that's particularly against this conceptually, but again, trying to get the last details right. And I won't ask Mr. Sheehan the questions I've already asked him endlessly related to the public realm space. I'm confident that there will be an ongoing negotiation that will work those things out. And then, you know, as it relates to the impact on Norwalk, I think it does bear mentioning that, you know, just the permits for construction, when they're pulled, are going to be an instant $5 million benefit to this city. And then eventually, once the full property tax benefit is brought to the city, that should be also, again, around $5 million. Not to mention the jobs Mr. Sims referred to, which hopefully will have, you know, the ability for people to not only come in, but to be trained and to move up the ladder within the retail environment. So I think that this will be good for Norwalk, but again, there's going to be continued negotiation both through the zoning process as well as, if necessary, continued through the council. And I think this gets points on the board, so I'm happy to support it, and hopefully everyone else will as well. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Bonifant, then Ms. Bowman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and everyone here spoke some really nice comments about the project, and my compliments to GGP for going out of their way to answer all the questions, and the staff of redevelopment. We had a lot of good meetings, and Mr. Hempstead, I'll throw you another shout out like everybody else did. You did good.
Heartfelt.
All right. Look, just through this process, you know, some of the colleagues that I was sitting next to, and we were starting to whisper little jokes like which one of those people is getting paid to come to the podium and promote the mall. And we went through things like that. But in the end, there was a lot of public support, and I don't see a lot of people against the mall here tonight, and I haven't heard very much of that lately. So, you know, there you go. Tonight, we're here to approve the financial business terms and the general conceptual plan. I thought we could have did a little better on the business terms, but nobody seemed to, they're gonna get, for the first 7 years, they're gonna get half of the full value of the taxes. And if that's the best they could have did, you know, there you go. I don't think one person's gonna change that. Some people who follow the project very closely were very involved in the public realm part of the thing, where should that corner be counted, or the inside, what are the advantages of, but you know what? I think that'll be worked out, and that's not my biggest concern. There's a lot of good people working on that part of it. My concern is eventually about the traffic. And Mr. Hempstead is correct that that's up to zoning to figure that out. And the problem is, one way or another, if the traffic is a mess there, we're gonna get blamed. I promise you that. But I think GGP has a vested interest in this project, and they'll want to move the traffic as best they can, because people don't want to go there. If people have a bad experience with it, they won't be coming back, so I kind of have the confidence that they'll figure that out. What we do know is that the traffic that's going into the mall they're going to enter through one main entrance. And while tonight's discussion looks at, we were talking earlier about the length of the overpass, I was thinking more about the experience of going underneath that tunnel and how long it's going to be. And how's the exhaust fumes in there, and the noise, and how difficult it's gonna be to cross that. But I think, you know, these are things that are still have to be worked out. The delivery trucks and the refuse trucks are also gonna go through there. And the only way they're gonna get out of there is to go underneath the highway, in the back by Crescent Street, and go past the transfer station, past the handicap playground, and come up to the stop sign that is sitting on a hill, and they're gonna have to go around around stepping stones. So, you know, I don't know, you know, hopefully that there's gonna be something better worked out. So, in the end, I look forward to having a tax-producing business entity like this mall, which doesn't strain our school system, all right? You gotta give them credit on that. You know, there's some, you know, people advocating for more housing, but at least the mall is not gonna strain the school system. So, and hopefully we're learning a lesson here that over the years, we shouldn't be giving away our assets on promises. The city gave, on the last owner, we gave away streets, infrastructure, tax breaks, utilities, and that ended up getting flipped for $35 million. Hopefully, the city's gonna smarten up and make the final transfers of our assets contingent upon the construction itself. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bonifant. Ms. Bowman?
Thanks. And I would just like to congratulate the planning committee. We're almost done, not done yet, so you guys have some more meetings probably. I do support the project. You know, today I'm going to vote yes, but I'm looking for, GGP to get into the redevelopment office in the next 1 or 2 days and take care of what they need to take care of, that we couldn't take care of tonight. A lot of folks brought up housing, and, you know, we've worked with GGP since they've been here. They came in and they've committed to being part of the community, so I don't doubt that, you know, if there is a project that they can contribute to in the future, that they will do that. I've never had a problem, you know, talking to them about the community, and they've been very open to that. Like Councilman Sims said, they are, you know, the mall will be located in South Norwalk. South Norwalk has a lot of different needs, social needs. They are aware of that and, you know, are willing to be a part of improving South Norwalk. So I'm looking forward to seeing this project go forward, whatever we need to do to work it out. I mean, if they say that something will kill their project, I think we need to respect that, especially since they have worked with us so well so far.
Further discussion? Well, I too would like to thank all the people involved, the planning committee, our redevelopment agency, our planning commission, certainly GGP, but there's one person that hasn't been mentioned that really worked very, very hard on behalf of the city, and that's my corporation counsel. He's been a tough negotiator. He's been a pit bull for protecting what the city should be protecting, working very, very hard, spending probably more hours than any other corporation counsel I could ever remember spending on a weekly basis. Even giving up one time a vacation away with his family over the weekend so that he could be here and take part in some of the negotiations. So I want to thank him personally and thank everybody else. This is a good project. It's going to bring jobs during construction. It's going to bring jobs in the retail, and it's really something that's going to help our revenue stream, increase the tax base, our grand list, and about time that we can have this project moving forward so that we can end up relieving, to a significant degree, some of the burden off the shoulders of our homeowners and help keep their taxes at a reasonable level so we don't force our seniors out and we allow young people to come in and purchase homes in Norwalk. So I just want to thank everybody for their diligence. It means every person on this council had a significant part of this, and it shows that when we work in a bipartisan fashion, how we can get things done. So thank you all very much. Hearing no further discussion, the motion has been moved by Mr. Hempstead. Item number B1 to approve the amendment to the Amendment 4 to the Land Disposition and Development Agreement by and among the Norwalk Redevelopment Agency and the City of Norwalk, Connecticut, and the Norwalk Land Development LLC. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Carries unanimously.
I think you need to do.
Mr. Hempstead, item number 2.
I moved them together, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, you did?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I missed that. Then, everybody understood that except me? Fine, we moved. All right, good.